During the past year, 7:30 has highlighted several cases where police have been found using heavy-handed tactics against members of the public. Tonight you'll meet three very different people: a doctor, a disability pensioner and a teenager. What they all have in common is the experience of a brutal ordeal at the hands of Victoria Police, and making it worse has been dealing with the police complaint system. This joint investigation is by the Age newspaper's Nick McKenzie and 7:30's Chris Gillette.
Here in Victoria, a police brutality case exposed by The Age and 7:30 sparked a major scandal. Senior police promised accountability.
The members involved clearly needed to be called to account for their conduct.
But we can reveal that just 19 days after that, a female doctor alleges she was brutalised by a policeman in public and as other police milled around. On Sunday, April 22nd, Canadian-born Melbourne doctor Kim Proudlove walked through Flinders Lane in the city just after 9 p.m. She noticed a bleeding man on the ground who appeared unconscious, surrounded by police.
So I saw across the street a man curled up in a fetal position with a very large amount of fresh blood. It was around his head. But what struck me as odd was that nobody was attending to him. So there were probably about 5 police officers within about a meter of him. So I simply crossed the street and introduced myself to the police officers as a medical doctor, and from there it got incredibly confrontational. I was quickly told that this man was bleeding because it was self-inflicted, which just made me think, what does that have to do with anything? He's bleeding, he needs medical attention.
Kim is a rehab doctor and works in hospital brain injury units.
What they told me was that he was Hep C positive. They had a duty of care to protect me, and I said, well, that doesn't matter, I'm a doctor, he needs medical attention.
Kim says she moved closer to the bleeding man and was pushed away.
And they said, it's not your business, we've called an ambulance, and just alarm bells went off. If someone is actively bleeding, and again, there was an incredible amount of blood, it's a medical emergency. At that point, they actually physically grabbed me, the front of my jacket, and pushed me up against a wall. They pushed me so hard, my glasses went flying off.
Kim started to record on her phone. After that, she claims a policeman attacked her.
I said, again, with my camera at this point, this man needs first aid, and you know I'm right. And then I directed that statement, you know I'm right, to this officer that was more senior, that was managing the scene. And I could see it in his eyes, he just lost it. He came at me and started punching me. And by then, I found myself on the ground, and it just searing pain. He punched me in the head repeatedly, not just once. I had my hands behind my back, and he was punching me in the head. And I was saying, you're hurting me, you're hurting me. And they basically just pushed me in the back of the paddy wagon. And, and life's never been the same since.
Inside the back of this police car, Kim managed to slip out of her handcuffs and film this video on her phone.
At that point, I was just crying hysterically.
They kept accusing me of being drunk, but they wouldn't breathalyze me, and they beat me up, and they won't give me the name and the badge number of the person that beat me. So they kept saying the ambulance was coming, the ambulance clearly wasn't coming, and in the time that they're waiting for the ambulance to come where they could actually help the person who was bleeding everywhere, they had time to beat me up, they had time to take up my ID, they had time to handcuff me, and they had time to put me in the paddy wagon, all in the time that they had no ambulance coming. They won't give me the name and the badge number of the person that hit me in the face repeatedly. He was really violent and he was really scary. They're not the good guys because they keep pretending they know nothing. No. I've asked them repeatedly for the name and the number of the person that beat me up.
Her husband raced her to emergency at the Alfred Hospital and called 000.
Emergency services.
I'm on my way to the Alfred Hospital on Commercial Road.
Okay.
My wife has just been returned home in the back of a police van.
Yeah.
She's a doctor.
So sorry, your wife was injured by police?
Yes, my wife's been assaulted by police.
They had to glue my ear back. I had these massive bruises. I couldn't sleep on my right side for over a week and a bit. They did damage to a nerve in my hand, but the worst part was they actually did significant damage to my knee. They actually broke my leg. I had a fracture of one of the leg bones, and they tore one of the ligaments in my knee.
Kim says the vision she filmed was deleted from her phone during the incident, and the backup folder wiped. She complained to the Police Internal Affairs Unit, at the time headed by Assistant Commissioner Cornelius, the man who 3 weeks earlier had assured Victorians that police brutality would not be tolerated.
What was your reaction when you saw the footage featured in that story?
Well, look, I was very concerned.
But shortly after the incident, she was told by police that she was under investigation. How did you feel to think it might be you who might be charged?
Oh, it was just, again, incredulous. It's like this chasm in reality opened up, and what they charged me with. I mean, I didn't do anything wrong. I work in brain injury. I know that people's lives are irrevocably changed with one hit to the head, and I was punched several times.
On January 11th, 2013, a disability pensioner was found by police sitting in his parked car with a blood alcohol reading of 0.27. Phil Dixon was arrested for drink driving offences and assaulting an officer. He pleaded guilty to those charges.
I don't remember much at all.
In this never-before-seen video, 62-year-old Phil enters Geelong Police Station. Words are exchanged. Phil is told to take off his belt. He throws it on the ground. Next, the police officer grabs him on the back of the neck and slaps him on the side of the face, and then twice to the back of the head. He's thrown to the ground. His head starts bleeding, and paramedics are called.
I remember seeing a door edge, and so I thought I must have tripped. I had a break in that knuckle. Well, I had a torn ligament in my shoulder, and I couldn't raise my arm above there. That took about 21 months or something, I think.
Medical records say he was intoxicated in his police cell and was rowdy, so had to be physically restrained and hit his head. The CCTV seems to tell a different story. Legal aid asked for access to the CCTV due to the extent of Phil's injuries. After he saw this vision, he made a complaint to Police Professional Standards. The police officer, Michael Cook, was charged and pleaded guilty to assault. No conviction was recorded. The officer was suspended with pay for a year. Cook's conduct, though, was deemed insufficient for him to be sacked or even demoted. Cook was directed to behave and stayed on as a police officer for 4 more years. Also in Melbourne, another case has emerged. An Aboriginal teen was psychologically and physically harmed, but he'd done nothing wrong. Police mistook him for an offender on the run. Daytime, April 5th, 2016. A police car has been rammed by a stolen black Nissan.
508, can I have a reso check, please? Oh, shit. David 508, we've been rammed. We're in, what street are we in? Elm Street, Preston.
The officers described the man who rammed their car. This is who they were looking for.
Do you have any description of the offender?
He appeared Aboriginal. He's wearing, I believe it was a black jacket, possibly light-coloured track pants and a red cap. Looked about 40 years of age with a goatee.
Armed with the description of a 40-year-old Aboriginal male with a goatee-style beard and red hat, officers visited homes in the area where Aboriginal men known to authorities live. This is the police dashcam footage from the day. Here, an Aboriginal teen on a scooter goes past the car and stops just out of sight.
You got facial hair?
707, any facial hair?
The teenager on the scooter is Tommy Lovett, an 18-year-old who'd been charged before but never convicted.
We got Tommy Lovett now. He probably isn't the male in the car.
Does he have facial hair?
Nah, negative. He's a 18-year-old Aboriginal male.
Yeah, impression APs. He doesn't sound like him from what we've seen on the CCTV and descriptions from the CI.
Tommy Lovett's mother, Doreen, said he'd done nothing wrong that day.
Nothing. Hasn't done nothing wrong.
Tommy Lovett's mother, Doreen, is a local Indigenous leader who works at an Aboriginal organisation within the justice system. She says the police brutalised her son and then tried to cover it up. This detective claimed Tommy Lovett was a suspect, even though he did not fit the description. He tells uniformed police to handcuff Tommy. According to this detective's account, the handcuffed Tommy was violent and spat at police, so police had to use force to restrain him.
I went into Heidelberg and I called for the senior sergeant to come out, and I said, "You have my son in custody?" He says, "No, we didn't bring him into the police station, he's at the hospital." And I thought, well, what the heck? He was horrified. He'd never been slapped up like that. He had no human rights. And they took him into a neighbour's house when they had him, and attempted to clean the capsicum spray off him because he could not breathe, and they were cleaning him down with a dog's bolt.
Hi, my name's Tommy Lovett, 15 years old.
Before the incident, Tommy was an outgoing, happy teenager. He was a talented athlete. Now Tommy no longer rides a scooter and is too traumatised to speak about the incident. His extended family member, Luke Edwards, works at the Victorian Aboriginal Legal Service and wants justice.
At a young age to witness something like that, not even witness, to go through it.
Yeah.
You know, to go through something like that, that's traumatic.
It's taken a couple of years for Tommy to get where he is today, and still he's got a journey in front of him. You know, he should be finishing his apprenticeship.
I was just talking to him
Not
before,
still in the first year. When my son turned 18, he had to witness how racist the world is.
7:30 has obtained diary notes and statements from police who were there. The notes give conflicting accounts of what happened. Some detectives say Tommy was violent and spat at police, and play down the police response. But police officers at the scene wrote remarkably different accounts from the detectives about the treatment of the handcuffed 18-year-old.
The male under arrest called the detective an idiot. The detective then picked up the male by his upper body and with the aid of both other detectives threw the male into a brown wooden fence.
The male's head was pushed into the timber plank and then further down towards the ground. I did not see it necessary in any way to use force. He screamed about his head and that he was in pain. When some of the information about how the incident was handled sank in, it was disappointing and disturbing to say the least.
Tommy was charged with resisting arrest, but when his lawyers asked for the paperwork from all of the police at the scene, the charges were unexpectedly withdrawn. The police involved have faced no sanctions.
Psychologically, it's been difficult.
What would justice look like for you in this case?
I'd like to see my son smile, say it's all over with.
I think that police officer's dangerous, shouldn't be on the streets.
I could have been dead, and I'm sure that nobody would have asked, is there any CCTV footage about that?
these cases keep going on. There's clearly cultural systemic issues at work within Victoria Police, and in my view the only way that'll stop is when there is proper independent oversight of police. This keeps happening time and time again, and it can happen to anyone.
That report from The Age's Nick McKenzie and 730's Chris Gillette. Victoria Police declined an on-camera interview but told 730 in a statement that 2 of the officers involved in the alleged incident with Dr Proudlove have been transferred to other duties while her complaint is investigated. In response to the arrest of Tommy Lovett, the statement says police acting on real-time information can make mistakes. And in response to the video footage involving the disability pensioner, the statement says, quote, "This is not the manner in which we expect our officers to behave." You can read the police response on our website in full. If you've had a similar experience, drop us a line at 730@abc.net.au.